Good teams find ways to win. That's exactly what Vanderbilt is. Vanderbilt found a way to win the football game when it was all said and done, guys. And to be real with you, I don't know if I can put all the blame on this Auburn team. Guys, that Auburn team fought their ass off. Deserve it. And guys, they put a lot of pressure on Vanderbilt. Most of the game, the pressure was on. And I thought, for the most part, they took advantage of the opportunities that were in front of them. Auburn played to their best of their ability. They played time of possession, and they took away opportunities that Vanderbilt was on the field. But Vanderbilt is as quick as they always have been. They're going to strike fast, and they're going to find ways to win a football game. Welcome back on in, ladies and gentlemen, to SEC Live at the Voice of College Football. Make sure you all do us a favor and hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. I excuse myself for my hiccups. Welcome on in, as we always do. SEC Live is always brought to you by our good friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Going over to underdogfantasy.com and use my promo code VOCFBSEC. And when you play your first $5 lineup, you will get $50 instantly in free bets. That's code VOCFBSEC. And when you play your first $5 lineup, you'll get $50 instantly in free bets. Diego Pavia is shining again. And I thought after a rough start to the first half, where Vanderbilt really didn't look like what we're used to seeing from Vanderbilt, I thought for the most part, Diego Pavia had been limited, but they created big plays. They got big opportunities that were ahead of them. Take the fourth drive of the game. 12-yard run, 43-yard dump out to Richardson, and then Junior Sherrill with a 20-yard touchdown. Vanderbilt's defense basically had the better half. And look, Clark Leah and that company stay alive in the college football playoff. They even stay alive a little bit in the SEC championship hunt. Well, not really the SEC championship hunt, but in the college football playoff hunt. And right now, the schedule is very favorable towards Vanderbilt. Now you're sitting at 8-2. You have the next two games. You have Kentucky at home and then going on the road to play Tennessee. So how do you continue to improve upon this? Well, number one, you have got to get off the field, guys. I thought that Ashton Daniels, for the most part, guys, you want to talk about a duel that nobody was going to watch? Talk about what Ashton Daniels and Diego Pavia did today. Oh, my goodness. Both teams with over almost 500 yards. Or actually, yeah, both went over 500 yards of total offense between the two of them. Diego Pavia, 489 yards. Ashton Daniels had 442. Not bad. Not bad at all. I love it. Look, guys, how about Ashton Daniels popping off? And I believe this might be his first start of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, this might be his second start of the year. I believe so. Anyways, that doesn't matter. What a start for Ashton Daniels and what he brought overall. You saw a lot of confidence, a lot of moxie. Guys, penalties, though, and missed opportunities hurt Auburn. Right near as you get a fumble and you have a short field, you have bad penalties that kind of hurt you. You had right before the half, you have a big run from Ashton Daniels that goes for a touchdown. It has to get called back because you have a holding penalty. That was kind of ticky-tacky, but you got to put your hands back inside. That tight end, it didn't really affect the play, but it still came back to haunt Auburn when it's all said and done. Guys, Auburn is a very, very feisty team. And you're always going to expect this when it comes to late season or late in the season. Vanderbilt had to survive, and guess what? The Vanderbilt of old would have probably collapsed. Well, this ain't your mama's Vanderbilt. This is a brand new team that Vanderbilt has. Guys, they find ways to win games. Probably could have had one last week, but a good way to recover this week. I didn't think that this was going to be even close. Guys, Cam Coleman, have a freaking day. Cam Coleman popped off and absolutely dominated throughout this football game. Cam Coleman is a very special talent that Auburn has been gifted to get. Now that I think you have a guy like Ashton Daniels that can actually sling the rock and can actually lead an offense effectively, I think he could very likely be the future for the rest of the season for Auburn. Guys, Auburn's still in contention to get to a bowl game. You play Mercer, and then you play Alabama. You're going to have to pull an upset at the end of the day. I think you blew your chance for a bowl game for sure 2 weeks ago last week against Kentucky. But guys, this is what happens when you fire your coach and you put in a new guy. You have that fight. That's what these late games are going to see. I'm going to expect the same thing from majority of the SEC. I'm going to expect a lot of fight. You saw that from Auburn today. We'll see a lot of that from around the SEC. We'll go into more detail on that when we have our instant recap of all of SEC action tomorrow night. But, guys, Vanderbilt, you knew that they were vulnerable, but I didn't think they'd be vulnerable against Auburn. I didn't think they'd be vulnerable against a team that had 241 yards of total offense last week against Kentucky. They had that in the first half, and they finished with 563. They outgained them in all areas of the field, but the big difference is that they had 12 penalties. Critical penalties down the stretch, too, that pretty much hurt their chances of winning this football game. They did. You turn 3 points into set. And look, I could point to the holding call right before Auburn went down to score. That could have changed the aspect of that football game. You got to realize they had another drive before that where you get a turnover, you have the momentum, you got an opportunity to get 7, and you can't convert in the red zone. You have bad play calling in that area. Do I think the play calling was perfect for Auburn? No. But do I think that it was consistent majority of the time? Yeah. But at the end of the day, guys, Vanderbilt's defense stepped up when it mattered most, and they took advantage of what Auburn gave them. Auburn had the late turnover where you think, okay, this is an opportunity for them, because I'm literally getting ready to write this. I'm thinking, all right, Diego Pavia shines, big win for Vandy at home, surviving a win. That's what it's about for Vanderbilt at this point in time. It's about surviving and advancing to the next game. That's essentially what you're going to see from Vandy for the rest of the season. They're going to have to play survival in order to play for a college football playoff. They're in a very good position to do so, but again, you cannot piss these opportunities away. You just can't. You can't afford to. You are too good of a team to do that. That's the bottom line, guys. So you still have a lot to work on. Defensively, I thought you got exposed. I thought for the most part you had been able to get a good pass rush against teams like Bama and against teams like South Carolina and Missouri. Yeah, and Missouri. From that point, I thought you were playing your best defense. I don't know what the hell happened today, man. I thought you went against an elite receiving core and a balanced receiving core with Singleton and with Coleman, and they just ate you alive. Both went over almost 250 yards between the two. Gave up almost 400 yards passing, guys. You had missed opportunities, and you had missed plays that, frankly, you didn't take advantage of. And who is that on? That's on you. You didn't take advantage of the mistakes that Vanderbilt was giving you. You couldn't shut down Diego Pavia when it mattered most. You couldn't shut down this offense. Middle of the field is wide open for them to throw a pop pass across the middle. Touchdown. Ball game. And I'm not mad at Auburn at all. I thought that was the best performance that I've seen from Auburn since the beginning of the season. But what I do think, though, is that this is still where I was mentioning about this at the beginning of the year. One of the areas that Auburn has struggled with is their secondary. They're going to continue to struggle with that. Do I think DJ Durkin is going to be around next year? No, I don't think so. But I think you're also wanting to say that this is an Auburn team that is offensively growing as we continue to move throughout the season. That's what it is, guys. So you have adjustments to make if you're Vanderbilt. You have offensive line issues that you have to get addressed. And you got to – look, I love Tim Beck. You got to get more up-tempo, in my opinion. I love these time of possession drives that you go on where you just waste time and waste time and waste time. Guys, you got to generate more of that. And you got to get beyond that. You got to expand the playbook. I thought you did that in the second half. I want to see that for a complete game. That's how I think Kentucky or Vanderbilt could go on a deep playoff run, is if you have things like that. And to be honest with you, your pass rush was almost non-existent. You couldn't contain Ashton Daniels to save your life. Our boy Jackson in the comments. 3 things in life: death, taxes, and Auburn blowing their shot at victory over a top 25 team. That has been their mantra this decade. Ever since Malzahn got fired, that's been what you have. Caden the Diesel Freak says Auburn and Vandy can't figure out if they're good or if they suck. Well, I mean, Vandy's good. Auburn sucks. I don't think it's any of that. I don't know if they can figure out if they have a good offense or if their defense really sucks. That's what you really should be saying. But I've been saying this since the beginning of the season that I thought one of the biggest weaknesses that we saw from Auburn dating all the way back to the start of the season was their secondary. You don't have the dudes. That's why you need to go hit the portal. You did a good job in recruiting, but you have to emphasize what you need to get in the portal. First of all, you need to get a quarterback, because I don't think it's going to be Ashton Daniels next year. No offense to Ashton Daniels, because I think this is his last year of eligibility. Yeah, of course, we decided to have Wi-Fi issues. Am I back? Hey, if y'all are in the chat, give me a thumbs up if we're back. Caden, I was never praising Vanderbilt like they're going to win the SEC. They're realistically, they can't. Thank you guys, by the way. They have 2 losses in the SEC. A&M and Alabama both have 0, and I think you have Ole Miss, Texas, and someone else that has 1 loss. So you would need for absolute chaos to ensue the next 2-3 weeks. Well, really the rest of today and the next 2 weeks of the college football season for Vanderbilt to even have a legitimate shot, which I don't think is going to even come close to happening. So, yes, I was. What are you talking about? You talking about now I said that, or I said that's in the beginning? How did I say that they were going to win the SEC? Listen, Caden, listen. Jesus Christ. Anyways, I do think Vanderbilt has an inside track to the college football playoff, but Kentucky next week, we'll see what happens with this defense. If this is the same defense that shows up next week for Vanderbilt, guys, we saw what Kentucky did against Tennessee's defense and what their secondary looked like. Vanderbilt got exposed today in the secondary, and I thought that they had a lot of really, really bad miscommunication in the secondary. You have to get that cleaned up. If you don't, you are not going to win next week. And you're going to be in for another shootout like you were today. Same 2 weeks from now. So, massive one for Vanderbilt. Way to survive a scare. Survive and advance for Vanderbilt from here on out, man. But remember, this is the same Kentucky offense that put up over 400 yards against Tennessee's defense. They're going to have to clean house next week. Just don't get yourself into a shootout, and you have an opportunity to win out the rest of the year. Y'all have a great rest of the night. We will see you all later tonight when we have our instant reaction to the Alabama LSU game. And yeah, man, really excited for that one. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We will see you all later on in the night.